Okay, so this is the first video of the Concentric design project. The first thing you need to do, don't worry about color, don't worry about any of that stuff. You're really focusing on design now. So we're at the very beginning of the design process. In stage one, I talk about going online, getting a Pinterest account, and making a file and saving images, drawings, paintings, palettes, color schemes, whatever, that interest you, that you gravitate towards, and just pull them in, save them into a file. From there, you're going to use it as a starting point, as an influential point. You might go back to it eventually and refer to it again. But after you do that, then you're going to start to make several sketches. And your sketches are going to be 6 by 6 inches. No more, no less. In order to do that, just grab a piece of scrap paper, but what I want you to do is I want you to rip it out. You could use printing paper too. Printing paper is actually perfect for this because you don't have this edge you have to deal with and take off, and I just don't want to deal with it now myself. So I just drew this quickly. I'm going to come back to that, but I'm going to show you how to prepare this. But you can see I just broke it down into large shapes, and then I'm going to go in there and do some more work. So I'm going to take this off. Now, not everybody has this luxury, but I have this nice painting board that I'm using as a drawing board, and it's lifted off the edge, and it's a nice hard corner. So how I go about this, I mean, you could do this on a tabletop or something. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put my T-square here, and as you can see, the top end of it is hooked on and snug to the top end. I showed you how to do this in class. And then I take this guy and I push this down, and I'm just running this into it, so that way I know it's parallel to that line. After that, I get my tape. You're going to be using a lot of this eventually, but for now we're just using it to hold the paper down. Now the paper's so thin it wants to slide underneath, that's why you have to push this down hard. Once you put it down, hold the paper down so it doesn't move, and then you can just tape it down, and that way if you put vertical or horizontal lines in, they're going to be perfectly straight. There's other ways of doing this if you don't have the T-square handy, or you can always just measure in an inch on both sides, put 2 marks, draw a straight line, and then measure 6 inches this way and 6 inches this way, and just use the edge of the paper as your starting point. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go, I'm just going to go about that far in on the paper. I'm going to bring my T-square to that dot, and I'm going to draw a line, just like so. After I draw that line, I'm going to count 6 inches. I'll start at 9. In this case, I'm going to stand up so I can see what the heck I'm doing. Start at 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it ends at 15. Okay? What I do now is I take my T-square the opposite direction. It's annoying because it catches on all these little fringes here. And then I'm going to take it across here. Take it across here. And what I'm going to do is just line this up with any number. Doesn't matter. Any number. A whole number. And then you're going to count 6 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which is 19. And I just had to put that one line there, and then I can just draw a line vertical down. Now the reason I'm trying to show you this, how to make a 6-inch square quickly, because you're going to make several sketches, different ideas, and you might pick one, and if your drawing isn't perfectly 6 inches or your lines are slightly crooked, you have to redraw the whole thing over again. So you might as well do it right once, get in the system of perfecting your process, and then you can take that design and you can start to make it live. So you can kind of see I already have a design that I'm committing to for this project. and I'll show you how to get to this point eventually. I don't know how well you can see this on this paper, but you can kind of see this, it's like a square on a diagonal there. It's gonna be the same square here, and it's gonna be flipped in this direction here as well. And right now, instead of tracing this out with tracing paper and transferring over and flipping it and doing a graphite transfer, I never liked that idea because nothing really lines up perfectly. So what I'm gonna do is, how I'm gonna go about this after I get my design here, as you can see, I already put my square in, and I'll show you some tricks to transfer this over here. And to be honest, it's faster and easier to just redraw this in here, redraw it in here, and then redraw it in here. I was trying to do something where I trace this. I'm lacking tracing paper at the moment. I just ordered some through Amazon. It's not gonna show up till Sunday. But so I found this sketch pad paper I had, and it's kind of thin paper. And I went over to the window and I tried to make a light box out of the window, and I traced it. So this eventually, I think, will line up right here. And what I can do is just like tape this down, possibly, and give myself a couple little dots where this comes out, or I could draw this out here. But even that's tricky. So I'll show you some other methods and approaches to transfer this image. All right, we're gonna come back to this. This is where you are now. And I can't stress enough, sharpen your pencil all the time. So keep this around you. And first thing I want you to do is, again, look at your research, look at some ideas and say, oh, that's kind of interesting. Maybe I'll start with that. And if you're stuck, you can't go anywhere, also just try breaking up this space, breaking it up. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of throw a few lines in here. I'm just gonna throw a line, like that's breaking it up into two shapes. So that's what I mean by breaking up. What if I wanna put a line perpendicular, or do I wanna do a diagonal like that? I don't know, let's do a diagonal. Do I wanna go through? Now it's broken up into 4 separate shapes. And then maybe I could do something like, maybe I'll go from this corner. I don't want to go from that corner. I could. I'm going to go from this corner to, I was going to go from this corner, but if this is going to be repeated and mirrored, that might be a little too predictable. So I'm going to go a little bit to the left of the corner, like so. So now I have this broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shapes. There's no number of how many shapes you should break it up into, but this seems fine to me. I have another design here that I was working on before, that I broke it up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces too. So maybe that is a good number. From that point, then you can start to think about how can I apply stripes within these shapes, okay? So one thing you could do is, what if I did this? I'm going to take my red graph ruler. I'm going to line up this line here. I'm going to make parallel to the red graph ruler, and I'm going to put this little red spot right there on the corner. Oops, actually no, I'm going to pull it down just so I can go all the way down. And I'm going to measure, I don't know, every ½ inch for now. I could do and stand up when you do this. Look over your drawing, because otherwise you'll be right on the halfway inch part. If you're sitting down and doing this, you won't be accurate. So I'm just marking a ½ inch all the way through. And I'll do it on this side too, see what happens. It's just an experiment. Remember, you're using a pencil and you're going to do a lot of sketches, so you can erase and change your mind. It's not a big deal. I'm just going to go outside of the line a little bit. Now, this is how you apply stripes. What I'm going to do is, oh, this is going to drive me nuts. is I'm lining this transparent triangle, as you can see, it's a transparent triangle, with the line that I created. I'm pushing my hand down on that transparent triangle, and I'm running a straight edge up to another angle like this. And I'm transferring my weight to this guy, so this can slide freely up and down. Now again, that's gonna be annoying. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw these little lines here, but I'm drawing them really lightly because I have this other idea in mind, and I'm gonna show you what I mean by that. So you can kind of see as I'm doing this, I'm sliding, and I might have to move my hand, I have to crawl my hand down a little bit. And this is a really fast way to make your lines parallel. And I can't stress enough to have a nice, clean, working surface. If you can set up a table at home, well, hold on one second. Get out of there, man. I'm gonna slide this down. So what I just did, I reversed my weight. I put the weight on here, and I was able to move that. Now I put my body weight on this guy. Now I can go all the way down further. I'm gonna crawl my hand down. You just don't wanna move. If this moves and slides, you have to redo the whole thing again. Now, for some reason, I didn't measure another 1/2 inch. I'll get to that later. Now I'm gonna go in this direction. And I'm lining, again, this line up with that line there. I don't know if you can see it in the video because it might be on a weird angle. Once I'm sure that it's parallel, I'm gonna put this down, put my body weight on this. I'm just using the heel of my palm, or the palm of my hand. And I'm gonna draw a line going in this direction. Now, I'll explain this in a second. It's not gonna be a checkerboard. And you can apply a checkerboard if you want to. It is a lot of taping, but go for it. What I want to do is kind of a shape like this. So what I can do now is erase. And I'm going to erase in here and in here. In here, and in here, and here, and here. And you might ask, you just erased everything. What are you doing? Now I'm going to go back in and re-outline. If I were to do this over again, this little section here, I would probably, darn it. This is what you need. Go with a 1/4 inch instead of a 1/2 inch. And another thing I forgot to mention is I'm using a 2H pencil. I want you to use a 2H pencil, or a 4H pencil. 4H pencil might be a little too hard, so if you want to use a 2H pencil just for your sketches, or even an H pencil for your sketches is fine. When you transfer this onto your illustration board, you're going to use a 4H pencil. So you can kind of see what I did here. I just made these lines parallel to one another. The correct way, if I were to have an angle finder, I could take an angle finder, find the degrees here, which could have been like, I don't know how many degrees, say like 70 degrees, and then you would find what's 1/2 of 70, which is 35. You do it 35 degrees, you put a line here, and then you make those lines parallel to it. It's convoluted and complicated. Now what I can do, if I did want to make these smaller, all I have to do is just put my measuring tool here, find the halfway point in between these guys, just mark it, okay? Oops, I should have done it here too as well. And then you just go back on and you add those lines. Really simple. So in each one of these little sections, you're breaking it up into sections. Think about a different application. It could be these stripes here that I'm starting to put in. Yeah, I think it looks better in 1/4 inch lines. But I could have made that judgment at another point. What I didn't do was measure this side. After I do this, I'll show you another trick over here. One little section I made a boo-boo. So you can kind of see these lines, and if I were to flip this, this would make this kind of center stripe moment, which could be cool. All right, so what I'm gonna do next here is, let me see here. One thing I don't want you to do is put a point right on your design and have all these points go to it. It's really difficult to paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a trick right now. Instead of putting the point right on the 6 inch by 6 inch frame, put it outside of the frame. I'm just going to randomly put a point there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a straight line across, all the way across. You might be wondering why I'm doing that. Well, the idea is I'm going to draw these lines almost like 1 point perspective. But in order to do that, I have to use this straight line. So, because if I measure lines out here, it's going to be uneven. So I'll show you what I mean. So what I'm going to do now is, in this case, I will do every 1/2 inch. And right on that line is where I'm placing these little dots. You want them to intersect that line. And you don't know how far you need to go out, so I'm just going to go as far as I can. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each one of those lines, I'm going to put my pencil here, run the ruler into the pencil, take that line here, and put a line. Take the line here, slide it over, right where it intersects that line, see right there, put a line. Right here, I'm going to do the same thing. Put a line. Right here, I'll do the same thing. Put a line. Right here, I'll do the same thing. Put a line. And so forth. So here's just what I didn't do. I wanted to extend this all the way to this point here. So I'm gonna have to go back. I just forgot, because remember, this line has nothing to do with the design. It was just a means to an end. So I'm gonna erase it eventually. So I wanted to extend these lines all the way out to the other line that I created, this line here. So I'm just gonna pull this out there. And after this, I'll let you guys build some of your own sketches. Let me just finish this first. Getting pretty small over here. Now, if you notice this, I ran out of room there, right? So what I could do is I could extend this line all the way out to here and continue making dots and just continue until I fill that space in. Now, what's nice about this, it almost feels like this goes back to it, back in space, right? To a vanishing point. Remember, this is going to be cropped off, so I would just erase that eventually. I'm going to keep it on there because you might have to redraw this onto another, if you decide to pick this design, what's it going to look like somewhere else. Now, do you see where these lines intersect? I'm just going to erase this real quickly. Darn it. See where these lines intersect this line? I'm going to put a dot right where they intersect. The reason I'm just putting a dot, it's just easier for me to see. And I don't think I need to worry about that side. So what I'm going to do now is maybe I'll make a vanishing point over here somewhere. Or I can make a vanishing point. Yeah, I think I'm just going to put a random dot here. Okay? Just a random dot there. And I'm going to connect. Actually, let me just easier. Now I don't know what I'm going to do in this section here. Figure that out once I get there. And the reason I'm doing this is because this creates a plane shift. Now, whenever you have these sections, right, you break it up into sections, and then you need you have to have plane shifts within your design. So this goes back in space there. This kind of feels like it falls down. Maybe I just extend this straight out. I don't know, and that could be it. That could be my whole design. Now, how do I fill this in? I have to continue this line here. And then I'd have to continue these lines here until they intersect it. Once they intersect, you put a dot, and hopefully I don't need any more because I'm running out of space. Yeah, that looks about right. So then there you go. So then that's done. I can finish this pretty quickly. And then I don't know what I'll do here, but what I could just, I don't know. I could probably do something like this. I could continue this line, go in this direction. I don't like that because if I were to continue this in this direction, these lines would look like they're going into those lines, and I think it's better to have a border like so. A border like so. And hey, why not do that? I'm gonna do every 1/4 inch. And after this, I will call it quits. Remember, this is just one quadrant of your design. This is not your whole design. And I do not want you to make designs that are symmetrical. They're going to become symmetrical when you mirror them together and make a concentric design. That's a symmetrical design. The nice thing about this is they're not symmetrical, and it's kind of fun to see what you get when you do apply them together. Oops. This little slide technique is fast, effective. At first it's awkward because you don't know what direction or where to slide, but the trick is to line it up with something. I could have done this. I could have done this. I mean, there's a lot of ways to go about it. So this might be my final design. I don't know yet. I don't mind it because this almost feels like a plane shift, but it's nice once you mirror this and see what you got. Also, you could mirror it this way. You could mirror it this way. This could be the end. You know, there's a lot of different directions you can mirror it into. Once I'm going to turn the camera off, and then I'm going to finish this, and then I'll show you how to transfer this onto a larger surface.